Joining us here now is the Defense Secretary, James Mattis, and his remarks outside of the White House.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We had a small group national security meeting today with the President and the Vice President about the latest provocation on the Korean Peninsula. We have many military options, and the President wanted to be briefed on each one of them. We made clear that we have the ability to defend ourselves and our allies, South Korea and Japan, from any attack, and our commitments among the allies are ironclad. Any threat to the United States or its territories, including Guam, or our allies, will be met with a massive military response, a response both effective and overwhelming. Kim Jong-un should take heed of the United Nations Security Council's unified voice. All members unanimously agreed on the threat North Korea poses, and they remain unanimous in their commitment to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Because we are not looking to the total annihilation of a country, namely North Korea. But as I said, we have many options to do so. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Secretary Mattis, do you believe?
All right, very short statement, no questions entertained there from Defense Secretary James Mattis. Let me bring in my panel now, CNN Chief International Correspondent Christian Amanpour, Tim Naftali, a CNN presidential historian. Also with us are CNN political commentators, Democratic strategist Dave Jacobson, and Republican strategist Alice Stewart. All right, welcome back, Christian, and welcome to the rest of you to the table here. So, Tim, to you first on this. Will a message also be sent tweets coming from the President of the United States that came as early as today on this matter?
Well, I have to say that I'm a little bit hung up on the phrasing of the red line that the Secretary of Defense drew. I believe he said any threat.
He said threat. Didn't say strike.
Would be met by a massive military response. Mm-hmm. I wonder how you operationalize that. Does that mean the next time Kim Jong-un threatens, rhetorically, Guam or anywhere else, that we will respond with military force? Given that Secretary Mattis has been so careful in his choice of words, I was surprised by that he would link a threat to our country with an automatic military response. That surprised me, and that might put the White House in some kind of difficulty if the North Koreans continue to play their provocative game.
That's a good point, Christian, but you're nodding your head. Do you think threat is just too vague, too broad, or should the language have been with a little bit more precision?
General Mattis has been around the block for a long, long time, and I understand what the gentleman was just saying, that it may sound somewhat vague and the red line may not be clear, but the fact of the matter is that a threat is as good as an action once a country has got the capability that we've now seen that North Korea has got what it claims to have after this latest nuclear test. So it needs to stop threatening, and it needs to be told that it needs to stop threatening. It now has the capability. It now wants to be taken seriously as a nuclear power. Therefore, it has to behave seriously as a nuclear power. I mean, the Soviet Union didn't go around threatening to strike the United States during the Cold War. They knew that there was language that was indicative of intent when two countries possessed the kind of overwhelming, annihilating force that they did during the Cold War. So this is a whole new ball game now that this test has happened. North Korea cannot afford to be loose with its language anymore. It cannot afford to indicate any strategic ambiguity whatsoever, because it will draw a response if you hear the words of General Mattis standing right next to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. That was a very deliberate messaging. It was a very, very precise message, and the game has changed today. And it just has. And now, what Mattis said that I'm not sure is entirely, in the realm of reality in terms of wishful thinking. The 5 permanent members of the Security Council are not all on the same page. Yes, they do not want a nuclear North Korea and any kind of accident or war, but they have not been tough enough on Pyongyang, and they have taken Pyongyang's side and its vision of how to end this stalemate, saying that the U.S. has to move off the peninsula in order for North Korea to step back. China has to be persuaded that if it doesn't want to see a build-up of U.S. forces, a bigger build-up, a bigger military force behind South Korea, a bigger amount of deterrence, it has to take the measures it can to stop North Korea.
So, Alice, was more clarity brought from the White House by way of James Mattis today?
Fred, military force we would use, it would be overwhelming. And I think it's important to take this on the heels of what we're hearing from the president today in his tweets, saying that the North Koreans' actions are hostile and unacceptable, and also looking at other options with regard to this, saying that they are a threat and an embarrassment to China. In my view, that means we need to push China to force North Korea to halt their weapons program, and also saying that we should stop doing business with other nations that do business with North Korea. I think hitting them in the pocketbook would also go a long way. But more than anything, I think between what we heard from the president and what we just heard from Mattis, all options are on the table. We've also heard from Secretary Tillerson this week that a path to diplomacy is also an option. So we're not clearly leaving any stone unturned with how to respond to North Korea.
And
appeasement agenda, so sort of undercutting our key ally at a time when he should be criticizing and lambasting the North Korean government. I think optically it made sense for them to have Secretary Mattis to come out and be sort of the cool, calm, collected leader. He's someone who's got widespread support across both Democratic and Republican leadership, so I think being the face of this message this afternoon was a smart play. But I think the president needs to tamp down the rhetoric, because his tweets are flat out dangerous at a time when we need to be coalescing support from our allies. Moreover, his tweet about making a threat to not trade with anybody who engages with North Korea, of course, that was a message to China, one of our biggest trading partners in the country, and so, pardon me, in the world. And so he needs to really temper, I think, his rhetoric and how he engages with that, because China, while not a key ally for us, they are a trading partner, and they're going to be important as we sort of figure out the calculus moving forward on how to react to North Korea.
all right, we're going to continue this conversation. To all of you, thank you so much, Chris, John, Tim, Dave, and Alice.